Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and back to another video. So today we're going to be doing another Piers Morgan reaction. Now this video was uploaded earlier this week. By the time this video goes up, it'll be last week. So I guess technically last week. And this is right after the Trump trial verdict came in. As we know, he was convicted of 34 different felonies in the state of New York. Now, before I react to this video, I want to be very transparent about my feelings towards the whole Trump trial and towards the verdict. Ready? Here we go. I think it's BS. I said it. I think this was political theater 101. This was political from day one. And the reason why I say that is because, first of all, they've already reached the statute of limitations on many of these charges, but they still went ahead and charged him anyway. Number two, they could have tried him right after he left the White House back in 2021, but they waited until the ending of 2023, rolling over into 2024, knowing that it would overlap into the election year and the election cycle, hoping that this trial would pretty much put a halt to his political agenda and trying to become president again. That to me reeks of political sabotage as well as desperation from the Democratic Party. Absolute desperation. Now, we obviously know that this didn't come directly from Biden. There's no proof of that, but he benefits from what's happening right now. And we all know that Biden needs every single helping hand that he can get because he's barely awake.
De nos têtes, des énormes obus de nos navires de guerre.
Let's keep it real. So that's my take on the trial. I think it's ridiculous. I think the entire system in New York City is corrupt. And do I think that this is going to have a negative effect on Donald Trump's campaign and his campaign run? No. He's been able to raise, I believe, over $100 million to date since the verdict came back. And if anything, Stormy Daniels and the DA's office, they just gave Donald Trump the biggest gift by having this happen, because now he has something to fight for, and trust and believe people are going to stand with him as they are already doing. So Democrats, you're stupid. With that said, let's go ahead and watch this video from Piers Morgan. It is entitled, "You're Accusing Me of Fascism. Trump Verdict Debate Gets Personal." And I could already see from the thumbnail that our good friend Francesca is back, the crazy liberal. So I'm pretty sure she's going to say some stupid things that is going to be great for this video for me to react to. So dumb liberals are a gift to me because it gives me content. So without further ado, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, grab some coffee, and let's watch this video and discuss it together.
Well, former President Trump's bombshell guilty verdict has triggered a predictable outpouring of smugness and glee from celebrities and liberals. Barbara Streisand said that Americans must not allow this felon anywhere near the White House again. Star Trek's George Takei quipped that he should now be called 34 instead of 45. And Joy Behar from The View said she was so excited that she, quote, leaked a bit in Costco. Charming. But could these celebrations be short-sighted and short-lived? The Trump campaign has raised a staggering $200 million since the guilty verdict rolled in. And
$200 million.
Alongside Dana White at the UFC event in Newark on Saturday night. Now even some of Trump's political enemies are rallying to his cause. Senator Mitt Romney, very much a moderate of the Republicans, said that Alvin Bragg may have won the battle for now, but he may have lost the political war. Democrats think they can put out the Trump file with oxygen. It's political malpractice. So is Trump the felon now even more likely to return to the White House? And here to debate this is the Shark Tank investor, Kevin O'Leary, criminal defense attorney, Mark Geragos, host of the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles show, conservative commentator Michael Knowles, and the very unconservative commentator, Francesca Fiorentino.
There she
Welcome
is.
to all of you. Mark Geragos, let me start with you just for the legal perspective here. I think two things can be true at the same time. One is that the jury did their job with the evidence placed in front of them, and that the verdict was a correct one from a legal perspective. And the second view, which can run concurrently with this should never have got to court in the first place, and dragging an American president through a criminal court process over something so relatively trivial, driven by apparent political partisanship on the part of the people driving it, was a catastrophic error of judgment and a disaster for the country. Discuss.
Well, look, I don't disagree with you. You can have these two thoughts in your head. If you're going to bring a criminal case against one of the most reviled people in Manhattan and pick a jury in Manhattan and expect them to do anything but convict him, then I know nothing about the criminal law that I've been trying cases about. That was a slam dunk for the prosecution from the get-go. At the same time, I can tell you that it was, to my mind, it was reprehensible that you take a case that is basically misdemeanors and with an expired statute of limitations, and you do the mental gymnastics
Thank you.
to contort this into a target crime that's not defined until closing argument, and make those into felonies, basically reviving an expired statute of limitations. I could go on and on about the legal nonsense that this is, but I'm not criticizing the jury. I criticize, number one, the prosecutor for bringing this case. Part of what makes the system work is prosecutors have to make hard decisions when to bring a case. The jury did what they were given. That's on the judge. The judge, there's no such thing as directed verdicts in criminal cases. This was basically
And they were given
a directed
trash
verdict based on the jury instructions. As to the political, I'll just end it with this. I said 30 years ago when I was defending Susan McDougal, who was Bill Clinton's business partner in the Whitewater case, and when she was being prosecuted by then independent counsel Ken Starr, be careful what you wish for, Republicans, because the chickens are going to come home to roost. Sure enough, that's where we are right now.
And those chickens are going to keep coming home to roost. So, Francesca, my question for you is, I understand how joyous you must be feeling that Donald Trump has been convicted because he slept with a porn star 20 years ago and may have shuffled some business papers about it. But why is it good for America that one of your 46 presidents has been treated in such a humiliating manner over something so trivial? And why do you guys not see that this might help him rather than hinder him in the election?
I happen to believe, Piers, that it's good for America when you hold the person who has the highest office in the land to the standards of the American law. And in this case, New York state law, where he committed these crimes. I happen to believe that it is a telltale sign of coming totalitarianism, fascism, skirting of the law when you allow a president to simply do whatever he wants and actually never hold him accountable. Well, look, the reality is this, is that these aren't crimes that were on the books in every single state. These are crimes that are on the books in New York State, as we talked about, all right? And so he knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, this is the most important part, is that David Pecker of the National Enquirer refused to keep on paying his hush money payments because the dude was tired of getting paid back in expired Trump stakes, and he was like, no, I'm not going to do it this time, especially not with a porn star. And so Michael Cohen had to do the payments on behalf of Donald Trump. Michael Cohen already spent 3 years mostly on house arrest, but he was already sentenced to 3 years over this. This is squarely Trump's making. This has nothing to do with his base. It has nothing to do with protecting American democracy, like happened on January 6th, according to them. This has to do with Trump making his bronzer-stained bed with a porn star, trying to cover it up, and then getting caught doing it.
And out of interest, before I go to Michael, out of interest, why is Bill Clinton able to have sex with an intern in the Oval Office when he's president and lie to the American people about it on national television? And why is he able to pay off Paula Jones $850,000, 4 times as much, 5 times as much as the Trump payment to Stormy Daniels, to get rid of a sexual harassment claim, again, while he's president? And he has no criminal court recourse for that. Why is that deemed to be better than what happened with Trump and Stormy?
I don't think anyone is making that case, Piers.
I'm asking you, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Or any predator. The difference is that he didn't cook the books financially using his own, using back channels in order to pay.
So paying somebody off who says you sexually harassed her, paying nearly $1 million while you're the president of the United States, and then having sex with an intern in the Oval Office and lying about it, that's fine because he's a Democrat.
Piers, only the leftists in your mind are making that argument.
Sorry?
I said only the Democrats and the leftist mob in your mind are making that argument that you're posing to it. I will say this about Stormy Daniels. I think it's incredible that she accepted $130,000 from Michael Cohen, because honestly, if I had the misfortune of sleeping with Donald Trump, no matter what the circumstances, let's say I had mad cow and then I did DMT on an empty stomach. If I had the misfortune of sleeping with Donald Trump, there is no amount of money you could pay me to keep quiet about it, because I would never tell a single soul. I would fake my own death and move to the Galapagos and pretend to be a bird.
I mean, I would say it's very unlikely you would ever get the offer, but you do look quite like Karen McDougal, funny enough.
Oh, so I'm not cute enough to.
No, I just said you are.
accost. Is
I
that
think
what
you're very
saying?
much in his.
Actually,
I love
that
that line.
actually is a compliment. Yes.
Yeah,
that's
it was a compliment. Go to Michael. Michael, look.
Right. Before we go to Michael, just really quickly, obviously her perspective is going to be on brand with all Democrats and liberals when it comes to this trial, right? They can't admit that this was a political stunt, that this is definitely politically motivated right before the election. So they have to make it seem as though the American people care about Stormy Daniels and about hush money and about him sleeping with the porn star, when in reality, we don't care. Sorry, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. There it is. We don't care. And I don't think Democrats care either. It just is more convenient for them to pretend to care, because now they have a reason to go after him. And like Mark Garrigo said, the most liberal state with the most liberal jury, nobody's shocked with this verdict. Like this, I mean, this wasn't like it happened in Alabama or Texas. Like, this is New York City. I mean, come on. He had no chance. He had no chance. And, you know, it's just, again, there would be some type of credibility if this was done right after he left the White House back in 2021. But why did they wait so long? Why? We all know why. We all saw the original Attorney General and how corrupt she is, which is why she had to step down from this case. They've been after Donald Trump since the beginning because they are afraid of him. They are afraid of his base. They are afraid of his movement. They are afraid of him becoming president again. He's a threat, and they want to take him out. And they're hoping this is going to be the way in. And if anything, this is just going to ensure a victory in 2024 come November. Mark my words.
I do think there's a ridiculous double standard here that will come back and bite the Democrats, for the reasons that Mark Garrigo said about historically, you know, you've seen this coming a mile off, where both parties starting to ratchet up this concept of kind of going after each other's leaders in criminal courts. I mean, you see this normally in banana republics, not in the United States of America. And it really does worry me, as someone who loves America and loves Americans, what this is leading to. Because if all that happens in each term of office is one party trying to incarcerate the other's leader, I don't know where that leaves America in a few years' time.
He's right.
Well, this will only come back to bite Democrats if they lose their grip on power, and obviously they don't think that they will. This is why President Biden the other day, when he was walking out of a press briefing, was asked, Mr. President, Donald Trump says that you are imprisoning him because he's your political rival. What do you say to that charge?
Well, we actually,
walking.
I'll stop you there. We have the clip. Let's play the clip.
Mr. President,
I've seen this.
Can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign?
I mean, you look like Jack Nicholson in The Shining at the end of that. But yeah, I mean, Michael, to pick up your point there, that's the clip
creepy.
you're referring to.
Yes, and it's pretty clear this is not a man who thinks that he has to be accountable to the American people. When you look at the federal charge against Trump, there was a poll that came out when that charge was brought that showed 62% of Americans think that it's primarily politically motivated. They just don't seem to care. And so this has been a ratcheting up, as we've all noted on the panel, of trends that have been built up for some years now. Some would say going back to Richard Nixon. But certainly in the early Trump campaign, the Democrats tried to stop him from being president by spying on him and cooking up fake intelligence, ironically enough, with Russia. And that didn't work. Then they tried to throw him out by impeaching him twice. That didn't work. Then they tried to kick him out by rigging the election and changing all the voter rules, in some cases in contravention of state constitutions leading up to that election. That did get him out of office, and he did leave office, but then he didn't go away. He kept running again. So then they indicted him 4 times. Now they've convicted him. They're going to threaten to throw him in prison. Pretty soon they're going to threaten to send him to St. Helena. But this has absolutely nothing to do with the law. As was noted earlier, at most you're talking about a misdemeanor that would have already expired under the statute of limitations. I'm not even convinced that there was really a misdemeanor that Trump committed. So my fellow panelist here is celebrating that the rule of law has been vindicated and overturned 234 years of American legal tradition. I would challenge her to see if she could possibly articulate how and what crime Trump committed, because so far Alvin Bragg, the DA, has failed to do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so, and they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Well, let's just ask quickly before we go to Kevin.
Drop the mic. Drop the mic.
What did Trump commit?
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly
Which
what
one,
they
though?
charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
I understand. What was the crime?
It is New.
Francesca,
I don't even like it. It is
Well,
literally
hang on,
he
Margot.
just got convicted on 34 counts.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of like cooking.
And
the
she can't
actual-
name one.
What was the crime?
You are not allowed. So you are not allowed to use your own financial, like your own money, to pay off somebody, and then he logged it as something different. He logged it as just a regular payment, but he was actually paying off this porn star to keep quiet, which, if he hadn't been running for president, would not have mattered, but he was, and so it impacted campaign finance laws in New York State. Okay, that is what Juan Merchan just oversaw this.
Okay,
Alvin Bragg
okay.
got these charges because
that's
Michael
not-
Cohen, his
that's not
sister,
quite
was
what
already sentenced to 3 years to do
Okay,
it.
let's just go before Kevin. I'd be very, very, very patient. I will come to you.
Look, I'm no expert. Let me just say, hang on,
No,
Michael.
Francesca.
You are no
Michael,
expert.
by the
That's
way.
right. Because campaign
We know.
finance law is a
Wait.
federal law.
Hang on,
Anyway.
Francesca. I want to go to Mark. You're the lawyer. Is anything Francesca just said, is that actually the crime?
Look, let me just say, I like Francesca a lot. And we probably agree on 80% of our worldviews. However, Francesca, the way you just described it, call me afterwards and I'll educate you, because that's not what happened. There was no theory that was given to the jurors. The jurors were told it could have been campaign finance, it could have been tax, it could have been false books. They were told they didn't have to specify, and specifically told they did not have to agree unanimously. That's what irks me. Lifelong Democrat, no fan of Trump, never voted for Trump, never will. But I will tell you, as somebody who has spent his entire career with kind of taking on unpopular causes and holding the government accountable, I have to tell you, I do that for a reason. And the reason is this kind of shenanigans, and that's the best light I can spin it, in the criminal courts has no place in a federal election.
No, I agree.
The campaign finance laws were federal, not state, and the state laws had nothing to do with
Okay, I want to go to Kevin. Been waiting very patiently.
Before we get to Kevin, really quickly, she's trying to make an argument that's not landing, right? Like her first of all, she can't even name one charge out of the 34 that he is supposedly convicted of, and then when she finally figures something out, supposedly she gets corrected and embarrassed by Martin Garagos, who's like, let me educate you. You're wrong, and here's why. And again, he's a lifelong Democrat. He hates Donald Trump. He's been very vocal about that, and even he is saying this is hogwash. This is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact that perception is reality, right? So regardless of what the facts are, the perception from the American people is that this is a political stunt. This is politically motivated. So, Francesca, darling, it doesn't really matter if you think you can find a rational reason why this is justice and why this is good. The perception by at least more than half of the country, and I will argue majority of the country, is that this is politically motivated and doesn't really hold much weight. It doesn't hold weight. It feels dirty. It feels like a last minute, trick to try and fix the system to stop him from having any momentum. And like I said, it's only having the opposite effect. Now he has 200 million that's been raised since this happened. Probably has more by now that I'm filming this video, because that video from Pierce that I'm reacting to was from Monday, I believe, and I'm filming this on Friday. So I can only imagine how much he's been able to raise in the last 4 days. Again, perception is reality. And the perception is that this has Biden's grimy little paws all over it, and Democrats are desperate. It's pathetic. It is absolutely pathetic. If I was a Democrat, I would be so embarrassed right now. I would be hanging my head so low. Like, why did we do this? Why? So stupid. So stupid. We literally just gave Trump the election.
Kevin, you are a very successful businessman, as Trump has obviously been in his career too. Do you think, in all honesty, if you were caught up in something like this, and I'm not for a moment suggesting you would want to have a one-night stand with Stormy Daniels, but if you went down this road and ran for office, or not run for office, if you just ran for, say, to be CEO of a company, do you think it would ever have led to a criminal case? Because the argument is that a regular business guy who's not actually running for the presidency would be treated very differently, and therefore the law has not been seen to be fairly applied here.
I think half the country in the U.S. believes this is politically motivated, which is not a good thing.
Yep.
It's having more impact on the state of New York, which is seen as unstable. There's something else to consider about Alvin Bragg, which I think history will prove to be correct. You've got to remember, Donald Trump only 24 months ago, in the middle of the first term of Biden, did not have control of his party. About a third of them were rebelling, if you want to use that word, because they were concerned about the controversy around Trump and they were looking for new leadership. And he was challenged, but something happened that changed everything. And this is the law of unintended consequences. Alvin Bragg started charging Trump. And immediately the entire Republican Party coalesced behind him almost in 48 hours. Of course, the country bifurcated into this being a political witch hunt using lawfare, as a tool, and we're still debating that.
What is Francesca doing?
Here's what's really interesting. If Trump becomes president,
Did you see that?
I think he has a big debt to Alvin Bragg.
Right.
Alvin Bragg is the kingmaker.
Yeah.
He made Trump president by polarizing the country so much and motivating the base so much that in the last 42 hours, Trump has passed $60 million in fundraising. That's an all-time record for him. So what's happening here is this unusual time, and I understand that you may not like that as an unintended consequence if you're Alvin Bragg, but I think history will show
Or Francesca.
he made Donald Trump president one more time. And that's just the way it is.
You know what? I completely agree. I think
Yes,
it's one of the
because-
most willful. I'll come to Francesca for response. It seems to be one of the most willfully stupid acts of self-harm
Yep.
I've seen any political party commit. You had Trump right on his knees, done. And you've revived the rotting political corpse of this guy, and you've now got him roaring back to the White House. And the only thing, as Mitt Romney, of all people who hates Trump, and represents by absolutely the most moderate part of the Republican Party. When even he says Democrats think they can put out the Trump fire with oxygen is political malpractice. He's right, because the only thing that could further guarantee a Trump victory is if they try and put him in jail on July the 11th, which, by the way, I wouldn't put it past them.
Here's the thing to realize. If you polled 1,000 independent voters, and they will decide the election, most people agree with that, I bet you, and we've had the same on this panel, we're debating it, 99% of them have no idea what this case was about at all, and have no idea what exactly he did, and I'm not sure they care. The fact that more than half of them think it's politically motivated is unsettling.
Yeah.
Hello.
And as I said earlier, will get finished off in the appellate system.
Perception.
But this is a remarkable time in American history, and not that great for the American brand, as you started talking about at the beginning. This is more like a Venezuela kind of Cuba, Banana Republic story. You got the porn star. All this stuff is really not what G7 countries do to their leaders.
I completely agree. This is Francesca. I just don't get. We see you're laughing, but Mitt Romney, for Mitt Romney to come down so squarely on the side of Trump.
I do want to just say, look, so the crimes were falsifying business records. Now, the reason I didn't know that before is because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not the journalist who is anchoring this entire show who should have told you that it was falsifying business records. Now, on the other
because those
point,
aren't felonies.
I hear you that most Americans don't care about falsifying business records. I agree with Kevin and I agree with Piers. However, I will say this. Most Americans also are very much go on gut. And they don't like that a candidate is now a convicted felon. But moreover, this candidate is someone who, and it is not the crime, however we know, cheated on his pregnant wife with a porn star in a hotel in Lake Tahoe and then bragged about it and then tried to pay her to shut up and
Who cares?
also paid another Playboy bunny to also be quiet about
Bill
their relationship.
Bill
That
Clinton
doesn't sit
had
well
sex
with a
with
lot
an
of American
intern
people. You're
in
going
the
back to Bill
Oval
Clinton because it's
Office.
the only thing you have.
Well, it's not a bad thing to have.
You're going back. No one's
Unlike
talking
Trump,
about
he
Bill
was
Clinton.
president at the time.
You know, I don't mean to pick on Francesca too much here, but it's very telling that even the liberals who are going on television to defend this ruling have to Google in the breaks to figure out what the crime was.
That's what she was doing.
And even then, I'm sorry to say, misrepresent what the actual supposed crime was.
Busted.
The
I will
reason
Google
here
it
that
because
this
it's
has to take...
literally not
Well, excuse me
my
one second, Francesca. I'll just finish my point real
cooking the
quickly.
books. That's the same thing.
Yeah. It's not a felony, not a crime. But anyway, that's a point for another time. The reason why even the great defenders of this conviction can't... yes, to you as well. The reason that they can't articulate this is because it's not really a crime. That's why they had to upend 234 years of precedent for this. And it gets back to a point that you made earlier, Piers, and that you made, Kevin, which is that Alvin Bragg really overplayed his hand. Sure, he overplayed his hand to some degree, but what else were they going to do? Donald Trump was always going to be the Republican nominee in 2024. A lot of people feel that he was gypped in 2020. He's the biggest guy in the party. It was going to happen. And Trump poses a real threat to the liberal establishment. He's not a Mitt Romney type Republican. He has different views from the so-called uniparty on things like trade, on things like immigration,
war,
and things like foreign policy and war. Trump posed a major threat. That's why they took such extraordinary measures for the last 8 years to take this guy out. They weren't able to do it politically. They weren't even really able to do it at the ballot box. So what's left? The only thing left to do is to try to throw him in prison so that he can't campaign for the election. I agree, it's backfiring.
This is not a federal case, Michael. You know that. It's not even a federal case. Why do you think that it's not a DOJ case? It's not a Biden case.
It doesn't have to be.
It's not a Merrick Garland thing. It's New York state law. So the idea that this is somehow politically motivated is all made up in your head, because what you do on your show every day is you groom your audience for fascism and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and sort of, laid out very nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened to
followers.
withhold arms.
You want to make sure. You want to make sure that when Trump is reelected, he can get away. He can get away with getting rid of the Department of Education.
All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents.
Right.
So if we're going to throw that accusation about it.
Drop the mic, Michael. Drop the damn mic. He keeps doing it to her. At this point, I kind of feel sorry for Francesca because she's so lost. The fact that she was Googling, and I knew she was. I was like, what is she doing? Because she was doing this while Kevin was talking, and I noticed it. I'm like, is she searching for answers right now? Because you don't normally see somebody on a panel on their phone doing this. So the fact that she had to quickly Google what his charges are just goes to show how ridiculous this entire case was. Because if she's so sure that this is justice and what happened is justice, she would know exactly what he got tried for, and she would know exactly what he was guilty of, but she couldn't even articulate it, which is why she had to Google it, because even she was confused. I mean, she's making the case for Michael and for conservatives that this was all politically motivated, which is why most liberals can't even tell you what the hell he got in trouble for. Can't tell you. And the fact that she's bringing up Ukraine, if I were her, I kind of would not bring up Ukraine, considering the fact that this current president is giving billions upon billions upon billions of our hard-earned tax dollars and our retirement in the future to Ukraine to fund their war with Russia. So, yeah, not really a popular topic to bring up right now because people are not happy, including many people on the left. Many people who are independents, many people who don't like Donald Trump, but who are disgusted by the actions of the current president and his lack of leadership. And you know what? I'm actually happy that Donald Trump lost in 2020 because I think we needed a wake-up call. We needed 4 years of the Biden administration to wake people up because people thought that Donald Trump was the worst person. Oh my God, he's writing mean tweets. Oh my God. I will take mean tweets any day of the week versus where we are today in the world. Because trust and believe, when Donald Trump was president, I was still a left-leaning person and I didn't like his tweets. I thought they were ridiculous. They were childish. All those things said, I would gladly run back to those days because where we are today is a hot ass mess under this president. But like I said, I'm glad that Donald Trump didn't win in 2020 because now it's woken people up to realize that this is what happens when you are under Democrat leadership. Look around. Just pick a topic. Any topic. Pick it. And you're going to see that we were far better off under a Republican president than we are now under a Democrat president. And that's just facts. I don't need to argue that point. I can just say, look around. Look around. Ask your neighbors. And they would tell you, yeah, you know, I don't like Donald Trump, but I was better off when he was president. That's the sentiment that I see online. That's the sentiment that I hear around the block when I'm walking. Like, people are not happy. They're not happy. And when you see a political party making moves against a president who has momentum and it feels, again, perception, it feels like political theater, it doesn't feel good. It feels disgusting. And yes, she's right. This is not a federal case. This was a state case. But we all know that New York State is a very liberal state. We all know that there are people working behind the scenes trying to connect the dots to create a trial against Trump. So to sit here and to pretend as though New York State and the people behind New York State weren't working with the government and weren't working with people behind the scenes to get things done, give me a break. Give me a freaking break, okay? Don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. I know exactly what's happening. You know exactly what's happening. And she knows exactly what's happening.
Let me come back to Mark Garagos. I want to play a clip from Donald Trump at the weekend. This is talking to Fox and Friends, where he talks about the prospect of maybe going to jail.
The judge could decide to say, hey, house arrest or even jail. How do you face what that could be?
I'm okay with it. I saw one of my lawyers the other day on television saying, oh, no, you don't want to do that to the president. I said, you don't beg for anything. You just, the way it is. I don't know that the public would stand it, you know. I'm not sure the public would stand for it. With a...
if you tried house arrest or...
I think it would be tough for the public to take. You know, at a certain point, there's a breaking point.
Now, Mark, the question I was going to ask you is that a lot of people think the way Trump has been trashing the judge, the court, the process and everything night after night when he comes out to TV cameras, that under normal circumstances, you could trash talk your way into a prison sentence. Is that remotely possible here?
Well, let me give you the legal analysis and then I'll give you the political. There is no instance I can think of where you're convicted of 34 felonies in state court in America, in any jurisdiction, while you are found in contempt 9 times and a judge threatening to put you in jail, where when you're convicted, the judge doesn't remand you, meaning put you in jail right there pending sentencing. Obviously, that was not going to happen here. Obviously, at least to me, politically, this judge is not going to put him in jail on July 11th. I don't even think he's going to give him house arrest. My friend Alan Dershowitz suggested something that I had not thought of. I had been speculating that the judge will give him 30, 60, or 90 days in jail, but stay it pending the appeal. Alan thinks that he will impose a state prison sentence of, say, 2 years and just hang it over his head. And that's somewhat diabolical because if you've got that state prison sentence over his head and he does not win the election in November, there's all kinds of mischief that could happen after that. So I don't think, if I'm a betting man, I don't think he's going to go into jail or into custody on July 11th. If he was somebody other than Trump, he would be in custody right now.
I mean, Kevin,
yes, that's a really important point, and everyone needs to remember that.
Yeah, it is an important point. Kevin, you know, just again, I'm across the pond at the moment, but I love America, and this is just this whole idea that we're even discussing the possibility of incarcerating an American president. I made the point the other day that if it was for running an illegal drone program that killed thousands of innocent people, or it was wholesale corruption on a very serious scale at the heart of government, you know, something of that magnitude, then okay, I'd understand taking action against an American president. But the idea that Trump is going through all this and may end up with a suspended sentence or a hung sentence hanging over him, whatever it may be, as Mark just articulated, the idea that an American president, left or right, is facing this potentially happening in 6 weeks' time, in election year, I mean, it sends a shudder down my spine, if I'm honest, because I don't know what it makes America as a country. Also, this happened at the UFC fight. Dana White let him out, and this is just after he'd been convicted of on 34 counts of this crime. Take a look at what the crowd reaction was.
Pretty cool for Sean Strickland to have a moment there with Donald Trump after a win.
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to you. I'll be donating to you, my man. Let's get it done.
I mean, that followed the entrance. Sorry, Mark?
By the way, Piers, if I have spent the last 2 days having people talk to me at a conference I'm at, telling me that one of the phenomenons on TikTok, as Kevin invoked it, is people saying, I'm voting for the felon, I'm voting for the felon.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you want a poll? I'll give you a poll. Take a look at what's happening there at the UFC fight and take a look at what's happening on TikTok.
Yeah. I mean, we're watching the end. This is when he came in. I mean, the place went completely nuts. And the trouble is, Francesca, I spend a lot of time in New York and LA. I have a place in LA and spend a lot of time working in New York. But I also do a lot of crime documentaries, ironically, which take me down to rural Florida, rural Texas, Alabama, places like that. And let me tell you, none of them agree with you. They all agree with that crowd at the UFC. Yeah. And if I was a Democrat, I'd be quite unnerved that you've thrown the kitchen sink at this guy, and this is how a lot of the public are reacting.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense that he'd be cheered at UFC. I mean, you know, it's a sport full of actors, and we have this guy who's been pretending to be a serious politician for years now. Look, the
they're not actors
thing about that interview that he gave to Fox News,
you're not besmirching UFC. Hang on, fact check. You'll think you're WWE, the actors. The UFC, they're real fighters.
Oh my God.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I don't have. Cool. Good. I'm glad. Look,
there's a big difference.
Oh my gosh, you're so dumb.
One is hardcore elite fighting. They're very different things.
I don't have video feed, but I bet it's dope, and I stand corrected, Piers. But I will say this: with the interview that he gave on Fox and Friends, I do think it matters because what he said was the American people aren't going to stand for this, and in some ways he's saying, you know, he's warning Judge Merchan, and I sort of agreed that I don't think Judge Merchan, even though all y'all think that it's some sort of political hit job, they're not going to put him in jail. Sadly for me, I hope they give him some sort of like community service soup kitchen situation. I'd love to see that, whatever is on his head, in a hairnet. That'd be incredible. Or just like make him work one day in his life, just a single day, maybe on minimum wage. I'd like to see what you do at like a Home Depot, you know, or just like do a landscaping job from one of the many immigrants that you want to deport from this country. Anything. That would be more of a punishment than actually sitting in a jail cell. But what he was really saying is, hey, American people, basically stand up for me. In effect, do another January 6th for me. And we all saw what happened, no matter what you think of that day, which I'll remind you, so many Republicans distanced themselves from what happened that day. But the other thing that happened is all these folks who loved Trump, who followed him, who believed in him, were arrested and then charged, rightfully so, for trespassing, for rioting, for threatening the lives of Congress.
He didn't tell them to do that.
Trump has faced absolutely no music over that. And of course,
well,
if Judge Eileen Cannon gets her way, he might never actually face the music until after the election.
He's been charged with very serious crimes in relation to that. That won't happen before the election. Instead, the Democrats, collectively, through political reasons and legal reasons and so on, came up with the mad idea of going first with the Stormy case. Yeah. And that has been a total disaster because no one takes it seriously.
Nobody cares.
Michael Knowles, final point to you. Trump said, my revenge will be success. These are bad people, and he said it's going to be success will be the best revenge. Do you think that's how this plays out?
It's the only way that it can play out because, as I think most of us on the panel have accepted, there's not going to be some fair legal conclusion to all of this. The only way that this plays out is if the political system in America is not wholly corrupt. It's only substantially corrupt. Biden smirks when he jokes about jailing his political opponents, but it's not wholly corrupt, and the American people can bring enough civil pressure to bear to push this guy back into the Oval Office. That is going to be the only way that this ends.
If he doesn't win the election, Michael will absolutely respect the results of
Well,
a
you know what
Biden
he'll say,
win,
Francesca?
correct?
And this time with good reason. He'll say, hey, for 2 months of the election year, when I should have been campaigning, I was being put through a criminal court trial over having sex with a porn star 20 years ago. And you know what? A lot more people will have empathy with him this time than when he falsely claimed he had the 2020 election stolen from him without any evidence. So unfortunately,
Absolutely. I mean, who among us
again,
hasn't...
the Democrat machine to shut Trump down has played right into his hands. But anyway, we've got to leave it there. Brilliant debate. Thank you all so much, Kevin.
All right, we're gonna end it there because the video ends there. Again, perception is reality. And right now, the perception, regardless of what Francesca wants to say, the perception is that this was a political hit job on Donald Trump to try and halt his run for president. And as long as that is a perception, it's gonna play right into his hands. So once again, thank you, Bragg. Thank you, New York State. And thank you, Stormy. Appreciate you. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this video. Which side are you on? Do you agree with Francesca that this was a just trial and a just verdict? Or do you agree with the other panelists that this was definitely politically motivated and this is only going to help Donald Trump, not hurt him come November? I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. Also, please go and check out my playlist. I have a full playlist of all of my political commentary videos, over 100, I think, at this point. So I got you covered. Definitely click on one of the links around here. Until next time, peace.